Alright, welcome to another Megiddo Gaming video. As you can see from the thumbnail, we've got some new content in the Zen Market store. Uh, Looks like we're getting ready for the new mod to be coming out soon. We've got the Expedition Pack, and it's at 25% off. Now, reason why I say not to buy it is because for veteran players, either way, new player, veteran player, you're going to be spending millions of AD for this pack because it's 7,500 Zen even at the 25% off. You can't add additional coupons to it. So, what you get in it, some of the stuff is, fashion, it's, a title, and going to flood the market with coalescent wards and blood rubies. And it's going to drop the prices down in the trade house. So if you really need coalescent wards or rubies, you're going to be able to get those at a lower cost than spending so much in this pack. Now, the biggest thing in this is that you get to start a week early, so to speak, because you get the new Jungles of Cholt campaign currency. You can be able to do the end game dungeon when the mod drops faster than anyone else. Now, here's the thing: if no one else buys this, either people that are in your guild or friends of yours, you're going to be sitting there with the ability to go to the dungeon, but with no one to go to the dungeon with. And, Trickster Rogues already have a problem getting into a dungeon. Now when Mod 13 comes out, we're getting some tweaks here and there. I still don't see that helping us get into dungeons any easier unless you have a dedicated group or guild that's going to get this, and they're going to let you join them in the dungeon. The mount, the companion, I don't really see anyone running this, especially Trickster Rogues. Not to mention you're spending money on this pack that the Cholton Tiger is going to be coming out when Mod 13 drops, and it still seems like that's going to be one of the best things to invest your money in. The Witch Doctor Batiri mask, that's mostly just a fashion item. 100% off VIP for 30 days. Yeah, it's a free 30-day VIP, but when you break this down, you need to look at it from the things that you're actually going to use from it. Most endgame players are not going to see a benefit from these. The Alpha Compy might be fun because it brings other compies in when you're running around in Cholt. And that's another thing too. I've never been a fan of anything that says that it gives you this buff or this bonus for being in this campaign, because how long are you going to stay in this campaign when Mod 14 rolls out? It's not a very good investment, a future investment. So, I would keep an eye out on that. Plus 3 increased damage. You can get 4% from the Siege Master. The 5% damage while in Cholt. Yes, it's going to help you while you're in Cholt. But, once Cholt's over, what are you going to do with it? It's going to be bound to your account. You're not going to use it for anything. No one's going to use it as a summon companion. It doesn't have good stats or anything. And the fashion box, if you love collecting the fashion sets, and they're going to have the new fashion bag, that might appeal to you. Expedition Leader, if you love to max out everything as far as unlocking everything, collecting everything, then of course, as far as I know, this Expedition Leader, you can only get this title in this box. But one thing, if you don't already have a max weapon set, you can get the Pilgrim Artifact Weapon Cache. Now this stuff here is only going to come out once 13th released. So keep an eye out on that. There's going to be better things to spend your money on, to be honest. At least in my personal opinion. Some people may like the idea of the 5 coal wards, the 20 blood rubies, and starting. If you can start early, if you know you're going to start early, then yeah, I would go ahead and buy it. But you better make sure that you have friends or guild members that are going to get it as well. One thing that I'm kind of interested in that I saw was the 6 months and Paranoid Delusion for 15% off. Now, I like to collect companions, so it's not often that the Paranoid Delusion comes up. I mean, I believe you could get it through certain events on PC, but it's a little harder to come by here on Xbox. So that would be something to look into. I mean, it's actually a decent companion. I mean, it's got 3 offense slots. I think one of the biggest problems is, the Icon, Talisman, and Sword Knot. You'd have to farm a lot of Illusionist Gambit to get that, but it does have some decent powers to it. So, I mean, if you, like right now I'm working on a control build for my Trickster Rogue. Well, like this ability here, Paranoia, which briefly immobilizes them. I don't know if that's a stun. I'd have to do some research on it. But also when Paranoia ends, when you have this at rank 30, then it will knock them prone as well. So knocking enemy prone is actually very powerful in game anyways. Now the only downside is, like we've always had problems with, is anything control related does not affect larger creatures and or bosses. So like the Allosaurs, the T-Rex, things like that in Chult are not going to be affected by those things. So definitely make it for a build that you're going to switch out of, especially if you're in a dungeon. If you're running Tomb of Nine Gods, you can run through there using a control build, but then you'll want to switch to a better, more direct damage build for when you're facing bosses. The Paranoid Delusion manifests itself, as it says, in your form. We kind of get a peek into this with the weapons from the River District, and it says that your attacks and at-will power that vary depending on the master's class. So, Trickster Rogues, for instance, this is going to be your Duelist Flurry. Now, if you're running a lightning enchantment, it's kind of interesting because when it uses that power, it's gonna chain the lightning just like when you chain the lightning. So, and your lightning chains can crit and everything. So, I don't know. It might just be a fun thing to have, but I'm personally gonna get it just because I like to collect companions a bit that I can actually use and switch up in my builds, test different things out, and you don't really get that with the Alpha Compy. I mean, it's got 1 defense slot in there, and it's nice. It's got 3 rings. I'll give it that. When you're looking at your Con Artist, for instance, it's got a defense slot as well. So, I mean, it's kind of in the same area as that, but you don't get that, debuff that you get with the Con Artist. And it's kind of neat too. If which one is it? Animal magnetism. Alpha Compy will randomly gather other compies to follow her. Any compy that joins her pack will fight for you. I mean, that's more like fun and interesting, so to speak, because the compies don't really deal a whole lot of damage. I'd be interested to know if those compies that get mind controlled actually count towards your pain giver stats. Of course, when you're in a dungeon, unless there's copies about, it's not going to do anything. So really, it would just be as you're running around Chult. I don't know. It's kind of fun, kind of silly. And when the Alpha Compy is below 50% health, all nearby player allies gain 1% increased damage, and all companion allies gain 20% increased damage. Well, companions don't really deal that much damage to begin with, so 20% is not all that great. 1%, well, I mean, everyone in the group gets it, so it's not bad. The problem is with companions, they die really quickly. Most of the time, they go from max health to 0 health. So, depending on how the computers calculate that 50% health, you might not even get the Call of Vengeance to proc. But the actual value of Astral Diamonds versus what you get is not that great. You'd be better off just buying the Chultan Tiger when it comes out, getting the 20 Blood Rubies, the 5 Coalescent Ones you can buy yourself if you need them. And that's the thing, you may or may not need them. Because like I said, if there is a decent amount of people buying this, they're going to flood the market because none of this stuff is bound. You could end up buying it on the trade house for probably lower than you would investing in this pack.
So long, family of mine. I have to go to work. Love, peace, and chicken grease.